Welcome to our presentation on pragmatism in educational research. During this presentation, we hope to give you a solid understanding of pragmatism by leading you through important figures, defining pragmatism, connecting to education, examples in education, current trends, and finally limitations of pragmatist methodology. And where else could we start this presentation other than with the fathers of pragmatism? For them, pragmatism arises out of actions, situations, and consequences, rather than antecedent conditions. Instead of focusing on methods, researchers should emphasize the research problem and use all approaches available to understand the problem. John Dewey believed that learners must adapt to each other and to their environment. Schools should emphasize the subject matter of social experience. All learning is dependent on the context of place, time, and circumstance. Different cultural and ethnic groups learn to work cooperatively and contribute to a democratic society. For pragmatists, teaching methods focus on hands-on problem solving, experimenting, and projects, often having students work in groups. Curriculum should bring the disciplines together to focus on solving problems in an interdisciplinary way. Pragmatists believe that learners should apply their knowledge to real situations through experimental inquiry. Pragmatism is a methodology that uses a mixed methods approach to find practical solutions to practical problems that exist right now, in this time, in this culture, with these conditions. When you see this picture, how many research opportunities do you see? How many of these opportunities would not have been available 80 years ago? The pragmatic worldview and philosophy lends itself to mixed method research in education, with researchers using tools from both quantitative and qualitative methodologies based on the situation and need. This freedom from the constraints of method ideology allows researchers to use more holistic approaches. An early example of pragmatism in educational research comes from Dewey's establishment of the University of Chicago laboratory schools. In these testing grounds for Dewey's pragmatic views on education, you can see the students in this classroom are engaging in hands-on learning in an era where the lecture style was predominant. The hands-on experiences and experimentations developed by early pragmatists have been adopted in the majority of elementary, junior, and senior high schools today. However, the advancement hasn't been equally effective at all levels. These two scenes are separated by around 100 years, but are they really all that different outside of the technology? The effect of pragmatism on educational research can be looked at as a rallying cry and pledge to continuously explore new and better ways to teach and learn. This quote by John Dewey is still true today and the basis for the continuous evolution of education. The evolution of technology has a constant impact on the classroom and education, consistently changing the tools at students' and teachers' disposal. The pragmatic worldview in educational research acknowledges that the environment is constantly changing and requires constant research to allow educational methods to adapt. Pragmatism addresses the current situation as it is. In classrooms, even before we introduce the variables created by students, there are numerous variables created by the physical classroom. Educational pragmatists use mixed method research to address these variables while creating the format of data preferred by administration. One of the key pragmatic trends we see developing in education is teaching students self-regulation versus ruling the classroom with an iron fist. Modern-day teachers place a greater emphasis on the formation of good habits and proper attitudes and less of an emphasis on only teaching factual information. In a pragmatic environment, students are permitted to be active and move naturally around the classroom, but expected to use self-discipline in order not to impede the progress of the group. Pragmatic teachers focus on developing a well-rounded human being versus developing one-dimensional intellectual giants. Albert Einstein counseled, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." The design of education is forever changing and facing new challenges. The best educators are the ones who strive to keep their teaching techniques current and make an effort to incorporate modern technology into the classroom. As a whole, the greatest trend in pragmatism is to teach the children, not the textbooks. Educators who are pragmatic look to include students' interests and desires into their curricula. By doing so, educators are giving the students the opportunity to take ownership of their learning. A convenient scapegoat, pragmatic education has likely been showered with more criticism than any other educational philosophy. Due to its liberal orientation, educational conservatives have found it a useful target. While some criticism is justified, the limitations of pragmatic education are a debate open for discussion. Perhaps the greatest criticism is the skepticism of educators worldwide fully buying into the philosophy. The traditional curriculum of standards and accountability is a comfort zone that often trumps efforts of pragmatist inquiry. Another criticism of the pragmatic movement is that it is anti-intellectual. The main area of concern for pragmatists is the marketplace of daily life. Dewey's theories would illuminate teaching world geography unless the child can take a trip around the world. History would be eliminated because it is the past and will not be relived by the student. There is fear that a pragmatic school will create a laissez-faire atmosphere for students and teachers in the classroom. The pragmatic teacher may not abdicate responsibility. If a student has little desire to learn, they will be left on their own. Furthermore, students may have gaps in their learning because certain topics were deemed unnecessary at the time. Educational pragmatism kills the idea of dreams and discovery for children, creating tunnel vision for the task at hand. For example, as a child stands before a magnificent structure, he sees only what is, at the moment, important to him. If he is hungry, he is more than likely going to be most interested in the location of the snack bar.